Hour on Cleveland TV and radio. It's been a very great week for us, and of course, very cold one in Spain, and I believe almost all over Europe. The cold really came down, but it's all right. I mean, we're getting used to it, and I think that's why I'm dressed like this. Okay, so there are certain things that you can handle in life. You don't have to make that excuse. Okay, so I want to welcome you to another wonderful time. In sharing together on how to make your life better, especially in business, ministry, and whatever you have laid your hands upon. This is Top Soul Business Hour, and my name is Akinshola Ogundia. Well, tonight I'm going to be having the opportunity to receive phone calls. Awesome. That is awesome. So if you check on the screen right now, you see my numbers strolling by. You can call on that network anytime, okay? And I'll be able to receive your call live on this program, okay? So it's awesome. It's an awesome experience. It's going to be an awesome experience tonight. The first thing you're going to do for me, like we always do, is you help me share. All right, this page right now, please help me do that. You can go to Cleveland TV. Just put Cleveland TV on Facebook, and you're going to find it there. All right, I just found it right now, and I'm sharing that right away. Okay, now don't make noise to me, right? Okay, yeah. All right, so I want you to share that on your page. I want you to share it and invite people. Help me invite people. Tonight is going to be awesome. It has always been awesome, but I'm telling you that tonight we're going to be dealing with a topic you can already see on the screen. What I have here. Let me just read that. It says, failure is not the opposite of success. Can you believe that? It says it is part of success. All right. Now we're going to be handling a topic tonight that I believe that the word is maybe the second most feared word after diseases. The word failure. That's what we want to treat and deal with tonight. We're going to be starting with that. And you don't want to miss that. There is no man in life that plans to fail. Hello? There is no man that believes that he plans to fail. Everybody in life that has a plan to succeed. But there is this word that is called failure. There are lots of people that have tried to talk about failure, and they tell you that failure doesn't exist, that failure is the best teacher, failure is this, failure is that. But I'm here tonight to tell you that the best way to tackle a problem is to first of all realize that the problem actually exists, and then we look for ways out or solutions to it. So I'm not in that school of thought that there is nothing like failure. There is failure. All right. And for those people that have failed in life, or those people who things have failed in their hands, they know that there is failure. I can tell you many experiences because I'm going to be sharing some practical examples tonight, and then you will understand that there is failure. But the topic we want to treat tonight says, how do I handle failure? How do I handle failure? What should be my concepts? What should be my conception of failure? What should be my attitude to failure? How do I handle failure? Does it really exist? Is there anything like failure? And then what does failure really mean? So if it exists and there is something called failure, then how do I handle it? All right, so that's what we want to talk about tonight. So if you love your neighbor, you love your brother, you love your sister, you want them to watch this. If you know someone that is failing right now, maybe in school, in business, in ministry, or someone that has been counted as a failure, I think the best thing you can do for them tonight is to call them and share this video with them. All right, there are so many people in the world that are dying because of this word failure. There are so many people that are doing so many things because of the fear of failure. The fear of failure is so strong, even though there is fear of success. But I bet you that there are millions and millions of people, even if not billions of people, dying in the world today because of the fear of failure. So let's tackle this failure tonight and let's deal with it. And I'm telling you that by the end of this program tonight, even if we don't conclude, we continue next week, but by the end of tonight, honestly, you will be a happy person. You'll be a happier person. You'll be a more empowered person. All right. So tonight, I want to be talking about how do I handle failure. I'm still on Cleveland TV and radio. And like I said, you have the opportunity to call in tonight and contribute. Tell us your idea, ask your questions. tell me if I'm wrong, okay? And let's learn from you also. You can also send your comments on the Facebook page as you're watching it, but please, please share it. I know a lot of times we don't want to share videos because you're not sure of what that guy is going to talk about, and you don't want people to have stuff on your wall that is not going to benefit them and go like, what the heck did you share? I'm telling you, this program is not like that. You will share this program, people are going to call you back and say thank you for sharing that program. I've had that testimony so many times, and that is just how it is. So share this video and let lots of people benefit from it. So let's kick it off. What exactly is failure? How do I handle failure? That's the question we want to deal with tonight. Well, I have some points here, okay? I have my book, okay? Like I always tell you, I write. I'm an author, so I write. But tonight, I think I'll just be able to treat 2 points. I mean, those 2 points are large, but let's start from there. And I think the first thing that I need us to understand and clear out is that failure is not absolute in itself. Hello? Failure is not absolute in itself. Failure is relative. I mean, if you understand that concept, first of all, your life will become easier. All right? That somebody failed in something does not mean that you will fail in it. And that somebody counts himself as a failure or counts whatever he is doing or she is doing as failed does not mean that if you are on the same level and you are achieving the same thing, you have failed. So failure is not absolute, okay? It's relative. Although there are situations, and this is where I was against, some methodology in the school. For example, when we were in school, okay, they made failure to be absolute. They told you that if you don't get up to 30% or 40%, you have failed that class. I mean, so in that concept, okay, for everyone that has scored below that, they count them as failures. And that is very wrong. That is one of the things that is very wrong in the education system in the world today. Now, because a lot of people go with that orientation, a lot of people go with that mentality, believing all their lives that they are failures, not knowing that because they have not succeeded or because they have not achieved a certain percentage in a particular course does not make them a failure. I think there should be some other words to frame that capacity capacity measure in students. Hello? Because there is nothing like absolute failure. Failure is relative. That's the first thing you need to understand. Let me give you an example. If somebody like Messi, if he has not scored, I'm talking about football, I'm sorry. I thought everybody watches football. I mean, I'm talking about Leo Messi of Barcelona. He's a footballer well known that everybody knows that almost in every match he has to score. He scores. He's a goal scorer. He's known for that. He averages about 50 goals a season every year for his team. I mean, so if in a year Messi does not score 10 goals and he played all season, for him, he will count himself that season he has failed. Hello? He has failed. But there is another player in Barcelona that is very good also, that I respect also. For example, Gerard Piqué is a defender. Piqué, I don't think Piqué has ever scored up to 10 goals in a league match in a year. But does that mean that because Piqué has not scored 10 goals, he has failed also? No, because he's not a goal scorer. And that's why I said failure in life is not absolute, it's relative. And that's the first thing you need to understand. So I need you to get up tonight, because your partner, all right, or your friend is making a million euros every year in his business, and you are making 100,000. That doesn't mean you have failed. It doesn't mean you have failed. It depends. There are so many factors. There are so many things that decide and determine what failure is for every person. Okay, so failure, I will say, is peculiar to individuals. It is not absolute. You don't need to call yourself a failure. You don't need to call your project a failure until you understand what failure is. Until you understand the definition of failure for yourself. Hello? That's very important. I have a very beautiful friend, Loreto. Okay, she's a very wise person. I used to say to her, she's very wise. She told me something one day, and I want to share with you. Every parent has this idea that we want to give the best to our kids. I don't know if you're a parent, if you've ever thought about that. And also, we always believe that we want to give better things than our parents gave to us to our kids. I have that mentality, okay? I grew up with that, and I still cherish that. I mean, I want to give to my kids the best. I want to give to them everything that my parents didn't give me. And so I was speaking with my colleague one day, and I said to her, I think I'm failing in my responsibilities as a parent. And she said, how? I said, because I've not been able to give the best that I wish, that I desire to give to my kids yet. I said, and I feel that I'm failing them as a father. And she looked at me and she said, wow. She said, well, Shola, let me tell you something. And I'll share this with you. Maybe it will help somebody there. She said, Shola, you knew what your parents did for you and you knew what you had from them. He said, but your kids, whatever you have given to them right now is what they have known that you have been able to give to them. They did not live the life you lived. The life that they have lived now, whatever they have gotten from you, is still the best that they have had from you. And to them, that is so awesome to them. That is the best you have given to them. So if you are thinking about what your father did and you want to do more, they don't know what your father did and they don't know how you lived your life. This is their time. If you live in an apartment, a rented apartment, and you feel that no, you need to build a mansion, they don't know what it feels like to live in a mansion. All right, they are living in an apartment and they are enjoying it. And she said to me, it's not always in what you give to them, it's always the quality of time you spend with them. And that changed my life totally. And from that day onwards, I felt like I'm no longer a failure as a father. That doesn't mean that I'm not still going to achieve more and, try to give them the best I can. But I understood from that point that failure in life is relative. I'm not an absolute failure because I have not been able to do this and do that, and I feel that people think that I'm a failure. No. So you need to understand that concept about life. You need to understand that concept about life. So the first thing I want to say tonight is that you must know the definition of failure before you can recognize it. How do you know that you have failed if you have not been able to define failure? Hello? How do you know you have failed? I mean, the first thing you need to be able to do is to define what failure is. Because if you don't define it, then you cannot really tell if you have failed. Have you defined failure for yourself? Have you defined what failure means to you? Until you do that, then there is no way that you can call yourself a failure. Have you defined failure for your business? A lot of us don't define failure. We just run away from it. But you cannot run away from what you don't know. Am I speaking to you? I mean, you can't run away from what you don't know. But that's the life a lot of us live. We say that we have the fear of failure. Failure of what? What is the definition of your failure? What is my definition of failure in business? What's my definition of failure in academics? What's my definition of failure in ministry? What's my definition of failure in life? What's the definition of your failure? A lot of people can't answer that question, but you must be able to answer that question. If not, you will never know whether you are failing or you are not. Hello? So stop being judged by what people say about you. Stop being judged by what you are even thinking about yourself if you don't have definition of failure. So tonight, the first thing I wanted to jot down, if you're jotting anything, is to define failure for everything you do in life. What's the definition of failure in your marriage? I really fear, I'm sorry to say this, but I really fear a broken home. I fear divorce. I mean, I never feared it when I was in Africa, but when I got to Europe, I began to fear divorce. And I want to do everything I can to run away from it. But I need to understand and define what failure is in marriage. So I just don't run from divorce. Because if I am able to define what failure is in marriage, then I will be able to tackle it. So if I don't fail in marriage, then I will not have divorce. Are you getting what I'm saying? If you define what failure is for you in business, then that is what you work towards. You work against that. You just don't run away from failure that you have not been able to understand. A lot of people, if you ask them, I'm sorry to use this example, but I know it's true because that's where I come from. If you ask people in Nigeria, a lot of people are running away from poverty. They are running from financial failure. But if you ask them, what is the definition of your financial failure? They cannot tell. And so the reason why a lot of people are corrupt, the reason why a lot of people steal money is because they are scared of financial failure. But ask them the definition of the financial failure. They cannot tell, and that's why they cannot have enough. Because there is no definition for failure for them. That's extremely important. You need to be able to define your failure. I'll tell you the things that you need to define failure. I'm getting there, but you need to jot that down. First assignment for you this week, I need to define my failure for every sphere of life. What's my failure in my physical stand? For me, I failed if my stomach is bigger than a particular, proportion. I failed if my health degrades to a particular level. I have definition for my health, for my failure in health. And so I don't run from sickness and all that. No, I don't get sick because I don't break those boundaries that I've set. Because I fight against that failure because I'm able to define what failure is for me. I have failed if I have not walked certain kilometers in a day. I used to say to my wife, even if I have a good car and I can drive everywhere, you don't need to drive every day. If you know that if you fail to walk so distance a day, it will affect your health, then it means you have defined failure, one of the failures in health for yourself. And so it means that every day you have to walk that amount of kilometers, and then you will never be scared of health failure. All right, so this, let me not go too much into this, but I think it's a little word, for a wise person to think about tonight. What is the definition of my failure? All right. Now, also here, I say, and this is where we'll spend a little time because we need to understand the concept of failure. I say here that there are only two elements that coordinate the phenomenon called failure. All right. Failure itself, there are two elements, and these are the two elements I'll really break down, give examples on, and we really concentrate on, because once you understand these elements that coordinate failure, then you will be able to overcome failure. You'll be able to handle failure in your life, in your business, in your ministry, in anything, in your marriage, in anything you lay your hands upon. You'll be able to understand what failure is and how to handle it. The first element is the parameter for defining failure. There is always a parameter for defining failure. And this is what a lot of us need to understand. And the parameter for defining failure are goals. Hello? Now you understand what I mean now. Now, the goal you have set is the parameter that you need to use to define your failure. If you ask me, Shola, have you failed before in life? I fail every time. Hello? I fail what? Every time. And that's why I'm never scared of failure. And how do I know I fail? How do you know when you have failed? Because like I said now, failure is not absolute. It's relative. But how do I know if I have failed? I know if I have failed if this parameter is tested and is not right. So you can measure failure by the goals that you set. You remember the last month we really talked a lot about goal setting. I talked about the advantages and why we need to set goals for our lives. I talked about values, your value system, your core values. I talked about means and ends values. You see how everything is coming together now. So the parameter to measure failure is what? Is goals. Now let me go back to the example I made the first time. If Messi scores 10 goals in a season, he can say to himself that he has failed. Why? Because probably he sets a goal that every season I must have 50 goals. So if the season ends and he has not gotten 50 goals, for that season he has failed. But is Messi a failure? No. He is not a failure. But in that particular area, that particular year, you see how limiting it is now. Because a lot of times we just hear the word failure, or somebody just tells you have failed, or you are a failure, and then it seems to you like the whole world is over. No. It is limited. All right? It is measurable. for that year, for that season, maybe even for just the league, he has failed. Why? Because he has not been able to meet up with the parameters that he has set for himself. Nobody set it for him. On the other hand, Gerard Piqué, who is a defender that has scored only 3 goals in the season, if the goal he has set for himself is, I will not allow them to score more than 10 goals, and all the other teams in the season never scored up to 10 goals, then it means that he has not failed. But if he has 50 goals, if he scored 50 goals, and the other teams have scored 20 goals against them, he has failed. Even though he has scored more goals than Messi, but he has failed. Why? Because he has set his own goal as not allowing people to score 20 goals. You get what I'm saying now? Now, so for him, he has failed that season also. Why? Because he has not been able to meet his goals. All right, now, so what are the parameters you have set for your life? What are the parameters you have set for your business? What are the parameters you have set for your ministry? What are the parameters you have set for your family? What are the parameters you have set for your finances? Are you meeting them? If you are not meeting them, then you are failing. And let me tell you something, failure is progressive. All right? So because when you talk about goals, goals are not just, it's not just one thing. Like I said to you, they have steps. They have action steps to achieve goals. All right. So if you fail in this step, maybe you don't fail the next step. It means you are not a total failure. You just need to adjust things. But well, like I said, the first thing we need to understand is that to really understand the phenomenon of failure, the parameter for measurement of failure are the goals that we set. All right, let me quickly go to the second one. The second element, okay, and I call that the variable. I call that the variable for measuring failure is time. Those are just the 2 things that define failure. I think it's easier now. Does it make some sense now? It's simpler to you now. So the 2 things that define failure: the parameter, which are the goals, and the variables, or the variable, which is the time. Now, this is what scares a lot of people. Not knowing that time is a variable. Let me explain myself. You've gone to school, okay? You were supposed to spend 5 years, for example. Maybe after 5 years, you were not able to bag your degree. Then people will say to you, it's very common that, oh, you are a failure. It's better for you to just go and learn something else. It's better for you to look for something else to do. Why? Because actually there was a goal. The goal that has been set is to get a degree. And there is a variable, and the variable is 5 years. Now, normally, honestly speaking, if you look at it, if after 5 years you don't get your degree, you have failed. That's the truth. We have to face that. But let me just chip in something here. The second phenomenon is a variable. What does it mean when something is variable? It means it can vary. It means it can change. Hello? It can change. So it means that you are actually not a failure if that variable is still subject to change. Hello? Now, I might not have been able to achieve it in 5 years, but give me another 5 years. It's too much. Yeah, it's a variable. If I'm able to achieve it in another 5 years, that's 10 years, but I still get my degree, then I have not failed. Even in that academics, I have not failed. It's a variable, and it's varied. I change it. You can vary your time. So it means that you can actually decide not to be a failure. That's what I'm saying to you tonight. You can decide not to be a failure. No matter what you do in life, everything has a timing. And that time is variable. It's always believed that people, young people should marry. Once you are 25, 26, 27, people begin to ask you, are you not getting married, or you want to remain single? You're not interested in marriage. And then by the time you get to 35, 38, you get into 40, people start to give up on you. If you are from Africa, your parents begin to go on mountains to pray for you. Why? Because they believe that the parameter, which are goals, is to get yourself in a home to get married. And also they have put a variable, which is time, and they put it between 20-something and 40. So if at that age you have not achieved that, then psychologically they begin to call you a failure. But my question to you tonight is this: are you really a failure? If that is a variable, why don't you change it, vary it? Let it be for you that you will marry at 50. It's not a sin. At least you are still married. Hello? So, I hope you are understanding the concept of failure now. There is nothing you do in life that does not have the variable of time. Now, but how come that people still fail? I mean, because that's the question people are asking, will be asking now, like, okay, are you saying that there is nothing like failure? That's what I said in the beginning. There is failure. And I'll tell you why there is failure. There can be failure for two reasons, but we'll get there later. Okay, but let's understand this first, that there are two phenomena that defines failure. Number one, the parameters, which are the goals that we set. And number two, the time, which is the variable. And variable means it can change. So, first of all, I have 3 points here. First point, I said you cannot declare yourself or something as a failure until you have been able to define what failure is for the person or the thing. So, for you to decide what failure is now, you have to take into consideration those two things. Okay? You have to take into consideration those. So that's why I said sometimes I fail. But it depends on how I call it. Let me give you examples of things I failed in. All right. There was a time that I really loved to be a footballer. Honestly, I really loved to play football. And I really believed that I was going to be a superstar. That was my goal. And the time, I mean, it was so variable that I couldn't even place time on it. So what we did then was, with my brothers, we used to play football every day. Like, when we go to school, after classes, we play. During the break time, we play. After school, we waited and played. We were playing football every day, believing that we were going to become footballers. But at a point, my father, he caught us and he beat the hell out of us. And he stopped us from playing football. All right. So we started studying and learning. And so that died. Now, let me ask you a question. Have I failed to be a footballer? I can tell you yes. And I can tell you no. Why will I tell you yes? Now, if I define failure as with the phenomenon of the goals that I've set and the variable of the time, then I can tell you that I've failed. But let me look at that phenomenon. Let me look at the goal. The goal I set was to become a footballer. But now let me look at that goal with my life, with my destiny. Have I been called to be a footballer? Okay, so now if I begin to look at that, today I'm not a footballer. I'm a consultant, I'm a teacher. And I believe that this is what I'm called to do. And I'm enjoying it. And people are being blessed by it. Honestly, if I was playing football, they would be cursing me because I would always make a mess. All right, because I wasn't gifted for that. I knew guys that were gifted for that. I wasn't gifted for it. I mean, so in the concept of literal speaking, I would say that I have failed in becoming a footballer. But actually in life, I have not failed because that is not what I'm even called to be. Can you see what identity can do to you now? I told you about defining things in your life, defining what failure is for you in life. Now, for me, my life is not a failure just because I couldn't achieve being a footballer. You say, oh, but you can still be a footballer. No, I cannot anymore. But why? Because the variable is not in my favor anymore. Hello? My wife looked at me this morning. She said, well, Shola, I want to tell you something, but I mean, it's good. He said, when I looked at you in the church yesterday, far away from where you are, she was about 20 meters from where I was standing. She said, I saw the gray hair on your head from that place. And I said, wow, this guy actually has gray hair. For it to show, it looked like a patch on your head. I said, well, I'm not getting younger. I mean, so honestly, age is not on my side anymore to be a professional footballer. So if you ask me, I cannot. All right, I won't fool myself. I know people that still go to university at the age of 80 to get their degree. I know people that still started their businesses. When did KFC start? Kentucky Fried Chicken. The man started his business at around 72 years old or so after he retired. I mean, those things are still possible. Why? Because the variable, you remember the two concepts, all right, in failure, in defining failure, the variable, which is time, is still in their favor. Hello, if the variable is no longer in your favor, you need to admit that in that area you have failed. It is not a crime to fail. It is not a setback. Hello, it is just a platform for you to learn or for you to be stronger. You need to, well, we'll still get to that, because how do you really handle failure? But I'm trying to establish to you tonight that there is what is called failure based on those concepts. All right. Now, but in the general sense, like I said, that is literally looking at that. But if you ask me now in the general sense, I'm not a failure in life. Why? Because I'm not even called out to be a footballer. It was a misplaced priority. Hello? If, for example, I was doing something else, which I was doing before now, I'll tell you a bit of my story. Before I started what I'm doing now, before I really committed to this ministry last year, I did so many other things. Honestly, if I continue to do that and someone asked me, and I will be sincere with myself, I will tell you that my life is becoming a failure. Why? Because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Hello? I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. So you need to understand the definition of what you're doing, the definition of what failure is for you in that area, and understand those two concepts. So the first thing I said is you cannot declare yourself or whatever you are doing as failure until you have been able to define exactly what failure is for you or for that thing that you are doing. Have I had failed businesses before? Oh yes, I've had failed businesses. But am I a failure? No, I'm not a failed businessman. I've had failed businesses. Why? Because the parameters and the variable were not just in my favor. It wasn't going to work. And whatever was not going to work, I left it. I've tried so many businesses before. I've told you, probably I will still go back to them, but I have tried so many that I've failed in, and I knew that no, this is failure, and I left them. One of the ways by which you handle failure is to let go and move on. I'm just giving you a secret ahead, but we'll still get to that. But you need to understand that you cannot say that you have failed or whatever you are doing has failed until the parameters have been defined and you have seen clearly that they are no longer in your favor. The variables cannot be varied again, or the parameters of goals, you have drifted away from it. You have not achieved it. That is when you can label something or someone a failure. So, is there anybody that is actually a failure in life? I don't think so. I think there are only people that have failed in things, because as long as they are still alive, they can still go for their goals. As long as they are still alive, that variable of time can still be on their side, depending on what? On their goals. I'll still explain more on that. Let me just go gradually. Number 2, I said you cannot fail if you do not have the parameters in place. Let me share this with you. It's a bit funny. I love sharing jokes, right? I love not jokes. I love sharing stories. Was it early January? All right, when I got to my office, my mates in the office, they were just talking about the Gordo, no, the lottery. There is this lottery they play in Spain every December. There's the big one that, the city it gets into, they become, people become millionaires or whatever. They have lots of money. And one of them said to me, "Oh, I failed again this year. The lottery failed me this year." And I said, "Yeah, it's true. I also, I failed in the lottery also because I didn't make money." And she said, "Oh, sorry. How much did you invest?" I said, "Well, I didn't buy any lottery card." I said, "Well, I actually didn't buy any lottery card. I just said I failed because I didn't buy a card." And she said to me, "No, you didn't fail because you didn't even participate." Do you know that is the way a lot of people live life? A lot of people live life by counting themselves as failure, even in things that they have no parameters for or involved in at all. Why will you have never gone to school? Hello, you have never gone to school before, and then you count yourself like, "Oh, I failed to be a medical doctor." You didn't fail to be a medical doctor. You didn't just go to school. You failed to go to school, not that you failed to be a medical doctor. Those that failed to be medical doctors are those that went to medical school and they did not finish and they gave up on it. That's the truth. I have failed in business. What business have you done? Well, I've not done anyone, but I just failed in business. It's not possible. So you don't fail in things that you have not ventured into. And that's what's happening to a lot of people. I've failed financially. How have you failed financially? Because I don't have money. That's not true. That's not true. You haven't failed financially. You have not even played the game of finances. So how do you fail in something that you have not involved yourself into? You've not played in a football match. You don't even have a team. And you say, we didn't get the cup this year. You can't get the cup because you don't have a team. You're not playing. Hello? There are so many things that are happening around us in the world, and we feel we put the blame on ourselves, or you allow people to put the blame on you as though you are the cause when you have not even played a part in it. So that's why I said here that you cannot fail if you do not have the parameters in place. And that's why the very popular saying says that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you fail to plan, then you have planned to fail. Do you understand what I'm saying now? You don't have any plans. If I ask you now, I know some of us that have been watching from the beginning of the year, probably we have some goals set now. But if I ask you that, what are your goals for this year? And you're like, well, I actually don't have any goals yet. Now, the truth is you have not planned anything. And then it means that you have planned to fail. So at the end of the year, you cannot tell me that you failed in this, you failed in that. No, you didn't even plan it at all. So you didn't fail in them. You only fail in things that you attempt. Hello? So I think that is bringing some burden off us tonight. Because a lot of people are going around with this negativity that they are failures when they have not even done anything. They have not even placed their hands on anything yet. So please, you cannot fail if you do not have the parameters in place. And number 3, there is no failure until the variable is no longer subject to factors that can change it. I've said that before. And that's why there is no age limit to success. Why? Because as long as you live, you can still do it. Yes, we can. I believe that's what the politicians in Nigeria, that's what they believe. These old men, at 70, 80, 85, you still see some of them, they want to become president. Even though it's good for them as individuals. I mean, they want to keep the dream alive. But it's not good for the country. I'm sorry. I'm not too much into politics, but I'm a political animal. I mean, it's good for an old man to still be interested in politics, I mean, but come on. You want to be president at 80? Your brain is already dwindling. That's the truth. You cannot reason normally. You begin to reason as children. Children like to eat with 10 hands. So you say, there's so much corruption in the government. Who are the people in the government? They are old men. They are already thinking as kids. They want to eat even more than they can chew. For heaven's sake. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that tonight. I mean, just by the way. But honestly, if the variables can no longer change, if the factors that should change the variables and can no longer affect the variable to change, then you can declare something as failed. So those are the 3 points that I want to share with you on that. And then we go on a little bit. Just remember, like I said, you can call in tonight. I'm going to stop very soon. I'll just take some comments. I want to say hello to lots of people that are watching. But if you want to call in, you can call that number that is scrolling down, 633-644-261. If you're calling outside Spain, you have to add +34 or 0034. Okay, and call in. I mean, I'm going to pick your call. You can share your experience. You can ask your questions. But I mean, we're talking about how do I handle failure. And I think so far we've been able to talk about defining what failure is. And I'll be able to tell you the parameters, which are the goals that you set for yourself, and then the variable, which is the time. Those are the 2 elements that you can use or that comprises of defining or measuring failure in life. So if you understand those 2 concepts, then you can tell when you have failed in something. All right. Now, the second point that we will look at briefly tonight, which I cannot finish, is that you must be able to define the objects and elements engaged in the event. What do I mean? Let me read 2 quotes that I put here. These are my quotes. I didn't read it from a book. All right. But just listen to this. I say, do not call yourself a failure when things fail around you, but you are still winning on your inside. Hello? Do not call yourself a failure when things fail around you, but on your inside you are still winning. Let me give a practical personal example. I'm a forex trader. I trade forex, and if for people that trade forex, it's a very dangerous trade. It's a very dangerous investment. I've been trading for about 12 years now, consistently. And every time I lost money, because people still ask me, Shola, do you still lose money? Of course I still lose money. Bill Gates still loses money. So who am I not to lose money? Of course I still lose money. And of course now I gain more money now than before. I gain more money now than I lose. That's the difference. And that's growth. Hello, that's growth. And that's what you should always look for in your life. That you make mistakes doesn't mean that you're a failure. That you make mistakes doesn't mean that you're growing. The only thing that tells whether you're growing is if you are not where you were yesterday, if you have moved on, if you have moved up, if you have moved ahead, then you are growing. Never mind your mistakes, because you will always make them. The moment you stop making mistakes, it means you've stopped learning. The only way you can learn is from mistakes, whether your own mistakes or other people's mistakes. Okay. Now, so people ask me, do you lose money? Of course I still lose money. And my wife looks at me and goes like, you must be very crazy. Of course, I am very crazy. You keep losing. Don't you think this thing is too bad? Don't you think, what she's trying to say is, don't you think you have failed in this and you should just stop it? And I say to her, I have never seen myself as failed. Yeah, some traits do fail. But me, I have not failed though, because it's still in my inside that I'll still make it. I don't know what level of education you have, but if you still have that fire somewhere inside you that still tells you that you can still achieve this, you can still go for one more degree, you can still go a step further. I'm telling you, no matter how terrible the situation is, no matter how many times you fail in the exams, you are not a failure. Why? Because everything might be failing around you, but if you are winning on your inside, you have not failed. And that's why I said you must be able to define the objects and elements that are engaged in the events of your life. A lot of times you see marriages that are collapsing. You need to be able to define what is failing in my marriage. Because if you're not able to define what is failing in your marriage, you might just as well think that you are the failure or your spouse is the failure. But it might actually be other things around you that are failing. It might even be friends that are failing you. It might even be your own family members that are failing you in that marriage. And that's why it's not working. So when something is not working, you need to define the elements and the objects that are involved in that event. You're doing business and you're always making negative. You need to tell what is the problem. Is it the business or the owner of the business? Because the problem can come from any of those two. In fact, it can even come from the customers. Is it the customers? Is it the business or the business owner? So you need to be able to define it and be able to locate what is wrong and where the wrong is coming from. So you cannot just assume that because everything is failing around you, then you are a failure. So that's why I said, do not call yourself a failure when things fail around you, but you are still winning on the inside. And that you must always do. No matter what is happening to you, no matter what you're passing through, you must always win on your inside. When I got to Spain, let me tell you this, as I'll be rounding up tonight. Maybe lots of people don't know. They just see me like, wow, this guy is doing good. He has an office. He has his ministry. He has a business. He's doing fine. This is next month, 2 months' time, will be exactly 10 years that I got to Spain. When I got to Spain for the first 5 years, do you know the kind of job I did? I was working in a toilet. I was cleaning toilet. I was cleaning the shit and the pee of people in clubs. Every night. I worked about 6 months. I mean, every blessed night. From 10 in the night till 6 in the morning. Cleaning toilet. Taking tips from people. Begging people for money for 5 years. And lots of people came in. I mean, you're going to meet lots of people when you walk in the toilet. You're going to meet lots of crazy people. But lots of wise people too. And most of the people that came in, they actually saw us as failures. And they go like, oh, let me help you guys, man. I know you guys are suffering. I know you guys one of them really said to me, said, I know you guys cannot really think of something else. And that's why you're doing this. But every time I met people like that, there was something on my inside that kept telling me that, Shola, No matter how bad it is or how bad it gets, you can do better than this. And every time someone looks at me and says like, well, I know it's so terrible for you, I say within myself that I don't think it's terrible for me. There is still something on my inside I can fight. And the day I broke out of it, it was like a war. I mean, it was unbelievable. People didn't believe it. But I broke out of it. I broke out of it. And it was, for me, it was a big deal. I know there is something like that is happening to somebody out there right now. I mean, everything around you is not favoring you. Maybe the circumstances around you have conditioned you to a particular point. I mean, it has really caged you somewhere. It has put you in a prison. Maybe it has caged your business. You are not able to expand. You are not able to explode. You are scared of losing your job. You are scared of what people will say. You are scared that you might not make money in the beginning. And all that has put you in a cage, and it seems as though you are a failure. But deep within you, there is something that is still telling you, yes, I can do it. Yes, I think I can do it. I'm telling you, you are not a failure. As long as you have that passion, as you have that fire in you, as long as you have that desire and longing that you can still do better for yourself, you are not yet a failure. Define the circumstances and the situations around you. Never let it define who you are. I used to say to people, let not failure define who you are. You need to define what failure is. And that is the problem many people have in life, because they have not been able to define what failure is. Like I said to you tonight, they have allowed failure to define who they are. It's so wrong. You should define what failure is. And when there is failure, recognize that this is failure and move on. I never allowed failure to define who I am. I am never down. Even when I told you that I was working in toilet, I was happy. I was always smiling. When they said to my face, you piece of shit, you cannot even think this is the best you can do for your life, I smiled, because right within me, I knew there is something greater that I can do with my life. If you believe that tonight, you need to begin to define everything that surrounds you and make sure you get out of it. Let the fire, let the passion in you define who you are. Stop allowing the circumstances to define who you are and what you're supposed to be. You can be greater than what you already are. I bet you that. The second quote I have here, and I'll stop for tonight because I really want to say hello to lots of people watching me. Jesus. The second quote says, do not lie to yourself by pointing fingers when the failure has already taken control of your inside. That's a bit deeper, isn't it? That's a bit deeper. Not too many people want to hear this, but I'm going to tell you, stop lying to yourself. If you know that it is dead on the inside, stop pointing fingers at others. Stop placing blames. Oh, it's because he brought me to this land. Oh, it's because they did this to me. Oh, it's because that happened to me. It's because that. Stop looking for excuses. Your excuses will never allow you to move forward. If you have failed in a thing, just agree that you have failed in it and move on. Stop blaming it on everybody. Stop blaming it on things around you. Define what failure is. If you recognize failure, then know that this is failure. Acknowledge it. It is not a sin to fail. It is a sin to remain in it. It is a sin to remain in it. Every year, if I'm unable to achieve my goals financially, I tell myself, Shola, you failed again this year. And I accept it. Because the moment you accept failure, then you are ready to grow. But if I go like, well, everybody understands that there was crisis in Spain. So how could I have even done it? With 3 kids and a family to keep, man. Even people that know what I've done this year, they should appreciate me. They should salute it. Hello? Stop fooling yourself. If you failed in a thing, if the parameter was right, the goals you set, the variable was there, the time you set. If the time cannot be varied, if, for example, the time says 1 year, that cannot be varied. So if after 1 year you did not achieve it, admit it. Okay, I failed in this year. I will change my variable. I will still set the goal, put another variable, and then I will try to achieve it. But the more you try to put blames and point fingers, the more you do not want to go forward. Hello. So let these two quotes be on your mind. I'm going to stop here tonight. Next week, I'm going to continue. I think this is a topic that we really need to treat and deal with. How do we undo failure in our lives? We've been able to define what failure is tonight and how you can define failure. I've explained to you how you can define failure by the parameters, which are the goals, and the variables, which is the time. If you understand those two concepts and you are able to define the failure, then you know exactly what failure is for you and for whatever you are doing in your life. Now, the second thing is that you must be able to define even what is happening around you, or all the elements that surround the events happening around you. So you'll be able to know what has really failed. Is it the things around me that has failed, or me, myself, that has failed? If you're able to do all this, I think that you'll be able to lift a lot of burdens from your life. Now, next week, I'm going to continue. From here, there are so many things that we still need to talk. I mean, my book is so full, honestly. I'm going to talk about the reason why people are depressed and stressed. All right. Why are people depressed? Why are people stressed? Why are people unhappy? I'm also going to talk about the wrong definitions of failure. What happens when we have wrong definitions of failure? And also, why are people frustrated? Then after this, then we talk about how do I really handle failure? But between now and next week, honestly, between you and I want you to go back and define failure for everything you do in life. Define what failure is for your marriage. Define what failure is for your business. Define what failure is for your ministry. Define what failure is for even your own life, your goals and achievements, your destiny. Define what failure is. Because if you are able to do that, if you're able to define what failure is, then you know when you are failing and when you are not. So you begin to live in your own reality. You stop allowing other people's opinion to become your own reality. This is extremely important. Let nobody put you down, and don't put yourself down. Be sincere with yourself and understand that failure is not absolute in itself. It's only just as people perceive it. It's very, very relative, because every man has what is his own failure. You must be able to recognize yours, and you must be able to handle it. And I know that God is going to help you. I want to thank everybody that has watched tonight. Whoa, such a long. No. This is long. Sabo Africa, Olive, KZ, Vince, Okocha, Temi, Abudu, Wisdom, Oni, Sandra, Kiat, Mary Abiodu, Leonard Johnson, Bariana, Etiosa. Lord Jesus, so many people. Iglesia Dulces, thank you. God bless you too, sir. Kingsley Onaiwu, God bless you, amen. Reverend Emmanuel, God bless you. Olayinka Duola, God bless you. Kenny Ray, Kit Furnish, hey Martin, what's up? When are you coming back to Palma? Come back, mate. Duro Dola, Oludamola, thank you, bro. That's my big brother. Thank you very much. Oliver Lotena, Mazi. Odikedu. Carlos Elias, thank you very much. Chiamaka Bugu, God bless you, Sister Chiamaka from the UK. Thank you very much, everyone that has watched. I mean, so many names that I've not been able to mention. I love you so much. If you joined us late on this video, I want you to go back and listen from the beginning. Honestly, you need to hear that. And please help us share this video. Let people be blessed. Allow people to be blessed. Next week, we're going to conclude on this topic. I want people to ask questions. I want you to make your comments. I want you to also share your own experience with us. Let's learn from one another. That is the essence of this program. I want you to be a better person. I want your life to have a better meaning. I want you to be an achiever. I want you to be able to make impact on your generation. And that's all we do at Topsol. The Lord will bless you, and I will see you again next week Monday by 8 p.m. Central European Time. Please invite other people, share this video, and the Lord will bless you. I'll see you again next week, and I want to say thank you very much. Also, before I go, I want to say thank you to Clevena TV for giving me this opportunity. It's beautiful. Every time it's getting better. It's getting wider. And I just pray that God will bless the works of their hands also and expand this network. Subscribe to this channel. There are so many other programs that come up in different languages. I mean, that's the diversity we have in Palma de Mallorca. You have Senegalese, Ghanaians, Malians, Portuguese, Colombians, from every part of the world. having their programs. I want you to watch these things. You learn from people. You can never stop learning. And the Lord bless you. I'll see you again next week. My name is Akinshola Ogundiya, and I give you the Lord's blessings. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week, Monday.